What's up everyone, it's Ojh and we're back at it again, and in this video I'm going to share with you my top 10 tips to help you improve at PvP, climb that ladder, collect more rewards. There'll be tips in here for new players, there'll be tips in here for more experienced players. Let me know in the comments which one of these that you think is going to help you the most. Give this video a thumbs up, get yourself subscribed, let's dive straight into it. Tip number 1 is to win the economy war. This game is all about spending gold efficiently. You will passively generate gold, the same as your opponent, but don't neglect mining with your kobold and also competing and getting as many of those gold chests as possible. And where possible, deny your opponent collecting gold from the mines or from the chest. And mostly what you can do to improve your gold spend is by looking for positive gold trades. And what I mean by that is don't be using something like a 4 gold blizzard to take out an opponent's push that is going to cost you 4 or less. So always be looking for those high value targets and defending in the cheapest way that you can possible so that you've got more gold for the counter push. Tip number 2 then, whilst we're talking about gold, is going to be trying to keep a track of your opponent's gold. Now, I'm not meaning that you need to know it down to the exact gold number, but just generally getting a feel for where your opponent is up to. Maybe they're defending and they're dropping minis late, and if they'd obviously had gold more in hand, that they would have played those minis sooner, so that can be a good sign. Maybe your opponent has just put together a pretty big push, so obviously will have spent a fair bit on that, or possibly they've overcommitted on one of their defenses or overcommitted to a particular lane, and that may give you the opportunity to push in a different lane. So here's a video clip. Okay, so as you can see, we are defending against a Huntress. We've played a Griffin Rider off to one side to stop that glaive rebounding. And then on the right hand side here, we've got a Tyrion supported by a Witch Doctor, and the opponent has played Harpies on top of that. So the Witch Doctor is going to do a good job of cleaning up the Harpies. Griffin Rider will sort out this Huntress, and as you'll see, the opponent is then on the back foot, having wasted gold on these minis. We've got a counter push going, and you'll see that they start playing defensive units as soon as they've got enough gold to afford them. So we're going to start making a push. So the opponent is going to play a Necromancer right behind their defensive tower. We'll talk about mini placement later, but splash damage is going to take out that Necromancer. A couple of gold is being generated, and then all of a sudden there's going to be a Tyrion that comes down. Another few gold will be generated, and then a Quill Ball comes down for 2 gold there. So as you can see, our opponent is literally playing defensive minis as soon as they've got the gold available. So it's fair to say that at that point the opponent got to 4 gold and played the Tyrion, got to 2 gold and played the Quill Ball, has 0 gold in the pot, and we can take advantage of that. So tip number 3 then is going to be trying to remember some of your opponent's minis. So I'm not saying that you need to remember the entire deck that they've got, although if you can, then that's great. But just remember some of the minis that are going to hard counter a particular card that you've got. And also, if you've got a hard counter to a particular mini that the opponent has got, then trying to keep hold of that card, trying to keep hold of that mini until they've played their mini, and then you can take that out for those positive gold trades and for those easier defenses. And if you know that there is one particular mini that's going to hard counter you, is it's trying to bait that card to be played out of cycle, and then once that card has been played, you know that you can play your mini. So tip number 4 then is going to be about understanding the minis and more about the placement of minis. So what you can do is you can split your squad minis for some dual lane pressure. Don't group up your minis if you know that you're going up against an opponent who's got a spell or a lot of AoE, splash damage type minis, or don't be playing your minis next to one of your towers that you're defending if you know that there's going to be splash damage that's going to hit them, something like a Chimera that's going to chain, a Huntress that's going to chain, or splash damage from something like an Ogre Mage. Also, understanding the speed of your minis. Don't be playing a Huntress who's just going to charge up the arena without having a tanky unit in front. Equally though, you can use some of your faster units if they're the same sort of size or weighting, which is a little bit of a perception or something, just to learn, just trial and error, that you can use something like a Huntress to push along a slower mini like a Ghoul for a little bit of increased speed. So just understanding the speed of your minis and using either blocking or pushing to get them where they need to be. But I've got a video clip here to talk about mini placement. Okay, so on this one then, we're going up against an opponent's sneaky prowler and a sneaky huntress. Now, the huntress is more than likely going to get the first shot off here. Rend is right next to our tower. There's not a lot we can do about that. But anything that we do play defensively from now on should be spaced out from our tower to stop the huntress's glaive rebounding to a second and third target. So what you're going to see here is I'm going to play my prowler. I'm going to play my prowler right up in this top right corner to stop the huntress's glaive rebounding to the third target, and we'll have a look at that. So as you can see, prowler came down, was not hit by the rebounding glaive, and that's how you can spread your minis out to stop your opponent getting even more value out of the minis that they've played. So tip number 5 is going to be about dominating the high ground. Now, not all PvP arenas have any high ground, but if the arena does, then dominate that high ground. Normally, you need to use that little selector switch to funnel your minis onto the bridge or to the ramp, and ranged minis can shoot down from bridges or shoot down through bridges fairly frequently, but ranged minis below cannot shoot back up to bridges, so you're going to get loads and loads of value by dominating the high ground. Get yourself that gold advantage. Tip number 6 is going to be about unbound tanking, distraction, taunting, holding aggro, whatever you want to call it, but it's about using your unbound minis to distract your opponent's minis so that your weaker damage dealers can get their job done, be that on towers, be that against enemy minis, whatever that be that against. A really, really important concept in Warcraft Rumble is going to be unbound tanking. And I've got a video clip that's going to help me explain that. Okay, so in this clip then, we've just done a little bit of defense, and we've got 2 little murlocs there that are going to be going up against a dragon tower when they get to the opponent's base. Dragon tower is going to do a really, really good job of something as squishy as murlocs. So what I do is I play a quill board down to distract the dragon tower, and then we get plenty of chip damage in there. Quill board coming down. Murlocs can get a couple of shots in, or quite a few shots. Quillboard is absolutely amazing because it is resistant as well to a lot of to elemental damage. Murlocs can be doing their work there because the dragon tower is distracted. Prowler can come down and finish that off. And I've got a second clip here to demonstrate that again. So I going up against another dragon tower. We've got a decent looking counter push going on, but having squishier minis in there like the Griffin Rider, like the Witch Doctor, we don't really want them going face to face with a dragon tower. So I'll play this clip on a little bit. So what we're going to do is, as they get a little bit closer, we'll play a quill board to turn that dragon tower around, and then we can do some good damage on there. Tyrion coming down, Griffin Rider and Witch Doctor are going to get all of that done for us. They've taken barely any, if any, damage at all. Unbound tanking, really, really important concept. Do it as much as you can. Tip number 7 then is something that I am guilty of as much as the next person, and it's a kind of a mentality thing, is sometimes you just need to accept that you're going to lose your tower. You've done something wrong, you've played poorly, or you've been caught out by something, or whatever it might be, and you're going to lose that tower. And rather than just throwing gold at it and those minis getting absolutely wasted because you're sending, you know, a couple of well pegs to go up against an entire push or something like that, is what you're much better doing is accepting that you're going to lose that tower and setting up a counter push from maybe your base, your core tower, to push to reclaim that tower, rather than just committing more and more minis to it. Now, obviously, there are occasions where you will need to defend your tower or do what you can do, but in the most part, if you're just being overrun, then just wasting gold, just throwing one mini at a time up against an entire push is going to be a complete waste. Here's a clip to show that in action. Okay, so in this clip then, we've got a decent looking counter push going. We've got a gargoyle that's going to be up there tanking for our rend, and I've just selected to place some well pegs by that tower for a little bit of distraction as well. So we're in a good position to be taking that tower. But what our opponent does is does us a favour and place some well pegs straight into a rend, which is not going anywhere at all. Then a Griffin Rider who's going to be not able to take out a gargoyle and a rend. Opponent then drops some harpies. We've already already played our safe pilot a couple of times in this, and then an extra quill ball to try and take out, or to try and reclaim that tower when there's a rend raining down from above. So in that situation, the opponent would be much better just accepting that they weren't going to be able to defend a gargoyle and a rend, and then setting up a counter push, setting up some sort of defensive push, which would have been able to compete with my push much better. So just don't get drawn into that. Like I say, it's a mentality thing. I'm as guilty of it as the next person. Sometimes accepting that you're not going to be able to defend that tower is the best thing that you can do. So tip number 8 then is going to be during the loading screen of going into a game, and it's going to be seeing what leader your opponent is playing, because certain leaders are probably going to dictate a certain style of play or certain minis that you're going to go up against. So let's have a look at this. So the 3 leaders that spring to mind, and there might be others, are Thalnos, Murkai and Maiev. So if we have a look here at one of, if not the top player on the leaderboard with a Thalnos deck at the moment, is that Thalnos will gain 1 level every time a spell is played, and also with the Bane talent that playing a spell increases the attack speed by 30% for 5 seconds. So you can expect, if you're going up against the Thalnos deck, that there's going to be quite a few spells. Typically to this one, we've got 4 spells in this: Polymorph, Smoke Bomb, Arcane Blast and Holy Nova. That's a fairly typical Thalnos deck. So if you are going up against the Thalnos, you can probably expect there'll be quite a few spells, and you can react to that by trying to spread out your minis to not give too much spell value. Now you might come up against an absolute lunatic who's playing a no spell Thalnos deck, and good luck to them, because the majority are going to look something like this. Murkai up as the next case study then. Murkai with the Marathon of the Murlocs. So for each gold played, there will be additional Murlocs that spawn. So what you're going to go up against with Murloc players traditionally is they're going to have faster cycle decks. They're going to try and save up their gold for big pushes where they can drop as much gold as possible, get loads of minis on the map, loads of extra Murlocs, and are going to flood the map really and make you have to split your defense across all of the lanes and try and overwhelm you. So a cheap cycle deck like this is fairly typical for a Murloc deck. And finally, looking at the Maiev deck then. So Maiev costs 1 less gold for each Unbound that is played. So you can get Maievs out there quite quickly. You're only costing you 1 or 2 gold. So you're going to expect, like I say, unless there's some absolute nutter who's playing a 0 Unbound deck with their Maiev, but you're going to traditionally or typically go up against a deck that's got a lot of Unbound. So this deck on the screen here, again, one of the top players in the world, it's got Safe Pilot, Dark Eye Miner, Quillbore and Wellpegs. So you're going to be expecting there's going to be quite a lot of pressure put onto your siege towers and quite a lot of contesting of things like gold chests and gold mines. So tip number 9 then is going to be looking at your siege towers as a resource. You do not need to defend every single little bit of damage that is coming towards your tower. If your tower's fairly healthy and you've got a couple of Murlocs coming your way or a couple of sneaky bandits, then you can most of the time absorb that damage, obviously unless you're about to lose your tower, but you don't need to defend against every single little bit of damage that's coming your way. And if there is a push that's coming towards one of your siege towers, going back to the mini placement tip earlier, is that play your defensive minis next to or behind that siege tower. The siege tower can take the damage, obviously assess, is the opponent's push big enough to take out your tower completely? And if that's a no, play your defensive minis in and around your siege tower. The siege tower will take the brunt of the damage, and then you'll have a counter push set up there, and that will do well for you in that economy war I was talking about earlier. So your towers are a resource. Use them as defensive units. And finally, tip number 10 is going to be about resistant and armored minis. Now, some of you will know all of the minis, and if they are resistant or if they are armored or if they're neither. But if you get into a game and you can't remember or you just don't know, then there is some symbology in the game that's going to help you out with this. And the symbols to look for are, for resistant minis, they're going to have this kind of gold crest. It's almost like shaped like a bit of a Batman symbol, a bit of a bat symbol, if you even know what I'm talking about there. that is going to display that that is a resistant mini. That means that mini takes 50% less damage from elemental sources. And if you've got an armored mini, it's going to have this silver shield like Artirian here. And that means those minis take 50% less damage from physical sources. So if you see that your opponent has one of those minis, then you can play an effective counter to them to win the match, basically. You will have other minis in the game that have nothing around them, like the Safe Pilot here, like the Griffin Rider, or like the Witch Doctor. That means that they have got no resistance, they take normal damage to everything. But there's a tip: if you're in game, you're not sure if a troop or if a mini is armored resistant or nothing at all, the symbology in the game will help you. Okay, so that's that then. That's my top 10 tips to help you improve at PvP. If you can implement any of these, then you will improve your PvP game. If you can implement all of them, then that is excellent news. Let me know in the comments which one stands out for you. Give this video a thumbs up, get yourself subscribed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.